and comedy have a lot in common, despite seemingly being at opposite ends of the spectrum. Fear and humour evoke powerful emotions, provide a cathartic experience, require precise timing, regularly subvert expectations, rely on the suspension of disbelief, and are excellent tools for social commentary. And because of their similarities, it's no wonder that the two genres work so well together. And while cinephiles should be familiar with The Cabin in the Woods, An American Werewolf in London, and What We Do in the Shadows, there is a mountain of hilarious fright fests just itching to be discovered. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 hidden comedy horror movie gems you need to watch. Number 10. Warm Bodies. Warm Bodies tells the story of a zombie called R who's been shuffling around an airport with his flesh-eating companions for 8 years. After encountering the beautiful Julie, R finds his heart beating for the first time since his zombification. R hopes to develop a romantic relationship with Julie, despite the obvious dilemma that he's dead and, she's not. Although Warm Bodies received positive reviews and turned a decent profit, it seemed to come and go without making much of an impact. Because the majority of zomcoms try to emulate Shaun of the Dead, it's refreshing to see Warm Bodies approach the same subject from a different angle. Rather than churning out formulaic jokes, the film focuses more on sharp writing and delving into the connection between the leads. The story has the exact right amount of humour that creates a light-hearted atmosphere without undermining the seriousness of the apocalyptic situation. Even though the story does the whole "who is the real monster" shtick, the concept is explored creatively, so it never comes across as cliched. Number 9. The Day of the Beast. In The Day of the Beast, Catholic priest Angel comes to the conclusion that the Antichrist will be born within a matter of hours. Out of desperation, he begins committing sins, hoping to get Satan's attention so he can stop him initiating Armageddon. Now, the strange thing about The Day of the Beast is how it doesn't feel like a horror comedy. Instead, it plays out like a drama that happens to be hilarious. While Angel discusses the end of the world, it looks like the ensemble are taking the subject matter very seriously. Suddenly, the scene will be interjected with farcical jokes and juvenile antics involving our hero pushing over mimes or drop-kicking a landlady to death. These hilarious moments are so unexpected, they're sure to conjure quite a few belly laughs. The Day of the Beast also deserves praise for how effectively it builds tension. Due to Angel's deranged manner, it's hard to tell whether the prophecy he keeps babbling about is legit or he's just a few sandwiches short of a picnic. Because of this, viewers are sure to be invested in the narrative to see whether the rapture is actually coming or not. Number 8. The Babysitter. The Babysitter centres around teenager Cole, who's constantly being picked on by bullies. Because his babysitter B does all she can to safeguard him, Cole feels himself falling in love with her. Unfortunately, Cole's plan to ask B out hits a bit of a snag when he discovers she's a serial-killing cult member. Worse still, she and her acolytes intend to murder Cole to perform a satanic ritual. Despite being only 85 minutes long, The Babysitter is crammed with far more shocking scares and kills than a conventional slasher. It may be rife with cliches, but the story never feels stagnant due to the tight script, seamless editing, and imaginative violence. The film leans more heavily into the comedy, but there are plenty of genuine jump scares that are guaranteed to get pulses racing. Though all the actors are on top form, it's Samara Weaving who shines brightest. The charismatic actress has such palpable chemistry with her co-stars, it's hard not to fall in love with her character a little, even after seeing B impale a man's cranium with a pair of daggers. Number 7. The Voices. The Voices follow schizophrenic Jerry, who's desperate for love. Tired of having hallucinations of discussions with his cat and dog, Jerry tries to seduce his co-worker Fiona. After he accidentally leaves Fiona mortally wounded, Jerry kills her and brings her dismembered remains back to his apartment. As his mental illness intensifies, Fiona's decapitated head starts speaking to him, urging him to kill again. Even though most horror comedies focus more on the ha-ha side, The Voices delves into the opposite direction. Although it's funny to watch Jerry chatting with his Scottish kitty or flirting with Fiona's bodiless noggin, these jaunty moments make it more shocking when things take a dark turn. As it becomes increasingly obvious how mentally disturbed Jerry is, it's hard to tell whether viewers should be tittering or gasping in horror. Yes, there are plenty of laugh-out-loud moments, but there are just as many limb-tearing, intestine-pulling and corpse-rotting scenes that are on par with the most disturbing horror flicks. The Voices is a clever, subversive horror comedy that deserves a look, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Number 6. Lunacy. Lunacy is a surrealist mashup unlike any other. The camera work and editing is so surreal it's difficult to tell what's real and what isn't. Every scene transition is accompanied with stop-motion animation of dancing meat and disembodied tongues, just to remind viewers not to take the film too seriously, no matter how dramatic it gets. Although it's hard not to laugh at such surreal imagery, watching organs slop across the floor enhances the overall atmosphere of unease and discomfort. With a gleefully entertaining villain who behaves in a playfully mischievous manner, viewers are constantly reminded of the ineffable power that he wields, making it impossible to relax every time the self-proclaimed nobleman is on screen. In a way, this villain perfectly encapsulates the horror comedy genre, since it's difficult to know whether the audience should be laughing their heads off or be scared out of their wits while watching his demented antics. Number 5. Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale. In this Krampus-inspired tale, a research company accidentally unearth a monstrous creature while drilling in Lapland. After a bit of amateur research, our young protagonist deduces that the awakened entity is Father Christmas. Unlike how he's depicted in greeting cards and Coca-Cola commercials, the real Kris Kringle is far more sinister than humanity believed. In order to protect his hometown, the young boy takes it upon himself to stop Santa Claus. Despite the silly premise, Rare Exports deliberately doesn't play up its comedic potential. Ironically, this makes the film funnier. After all, it's impossible to watch the characters battle a horde of naked elves and take it seriously, no matter how dramatic they play it. Also, Rare Exports is a prime example of the philosophy that less is more. Rather than showing all the potential gore, most of the defining moments, including a reindeer massacre and a mass kidnapping, occur off-screen. This was a wise decision since it allows viewers' imaginations to run wild on what sort of demonic force the townsfolk are facing. Number 4. The Phantom of the Paradise. In The Phantom of the Paradise, deformed composer Winslow Leach torments the Paradise Concert Hall after its record producer Swan plagiarizes his music. Winslow vows to kill anyone who sings his songs, except for a woman he's infatuated with called Phoenix. Despite the campy tone, The Phantom of the Paradise is deeply heart-wrenching. After watching Winslow lose his face, his mind, his freedom, his career, and most importantly his voice, it's impossible not to feel for him. And then there's the music. The glam rock, catchy pop melodies and haunting ballads are so catchy they're sure to stay with everyone long after the movie is over. The Phantom of the Paradise may have initially bombed, but it's easy to see how it became a cult classic. Number 3. Cemetery Man. In Cemetery Man, belligerent caretaker Francesco is hired to keep a watch on the local graveyard after its occupants have started to rise from the dead. As straightforward as that story sounds, there really is nothing else like Cemetery Man. There is such a quick transition between genres, it's impossible to know what's going to happen next. One moment, viewers are watching a wacky comedy, the next a philosophical discussion between the protagonist and the embodiment of death. When Francesco's companion falls in love with a decapitated head, it's hard to know whether their relationship is meant to be romantic, creepy, both, or neither. Cemetery Man also boasts so many stunning visuals, viewers will be racking their brain trying to figure out how the effects crew pulled them off. Even though most undead movies are pretty derivative, Cemetery Man is among the few zombie features with a brain. Number 2. Therapy for a Vampire. Therapy for a Vampire opens with bloodthirsty Count Geezer seeking guidance from the father of psychology himself, Sigmund Freud. This counselling session gives Geezer plenty of food for thought, setting him on a new path in life. What makes this Austrian gem work so well is how effectively it interweaves comedy with tragedy. Because vampires can't see their reflection, Geezer's partner, Elsa, is tormented by the fact that she doesn't remember her own face. When Elsa asks an artist to paint her, he realises he can't since his paintbrush bends away from the canvas every time he tries to. As funny as this scenario is, it's equally heartbreaking knowing Elsa can never gaze at her own face ever again. This underrated comedy also implements lesser-known folklore, like how vampires suffer from arithmomania, meaning that they're obligated to count and organise small objects. Although this compulsion could be a one-time gag, it's cleverly blended into the narrative. Most importantly, therapy for a vampire appeals to a broad audience. While Nosferatu enthusiasts will appreciate the clever nods to classic vampire cinema, the universal themes of love, identity, and self-discovery will resonate with viewers from all walks of life. Number 1. Dead Snow 2 Red vs. Dead. Dead Snow was far better than it had any right to be, considering it centered around Nazi zombies. With that said, the Norwegian comedy felt like a one-and-done idea. After all, what could a follow-up on the same ridiculous premise offer? Well, the short answer is plenty. Every kill in Dead Snow 2 Red vs. Dead has a marvellous blend of dark humour and gruesome horror, leaving viewers lost for words. The most innocent characters are executed in the most mean-spirited way, which is equally shocking and hilarious. However, what makes Red vs. Dead really stand out is how innovative it is. Not only does our heroic amputee Martin have to contend with goose-stepping flesh-eaters, but he becomes his own worst enemy when he has a zombie arm surgically attached to his shoulder. After learning he can use his new limb to revive the dead, Martin fights the Third Reich revenants with his own batch of brain-munching ghouls. It's subversive ideas like this that make Red vs. Dead so entertaining. Even though Dead Snow was surprisingly popular, many fans didn't bother with the second installment, assuming it would be the same old, same old. But not only is Dead Snow 2 dramatically better, it's one of the most underrated zombie flicks ever made. And that's everything for this list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.